Hi guys, good afternoon. In this time, I will try to explain about experimental research. Understanding experimental research. Experimental research is the most full quantitative research approach in the sense of meeting all the requirements to test the cause and effect relationship. Experimental research can also be interpreted as an objective, systematic, and controlled study to predict or control phenomena. Therefore, the purpose of this study to examine the relationship of causality. Characteristic of experimental research. 1. Manipulate free variables. What is meant by manipulation is an action or treatment controlled by a research on the basis of scientific consideration that can be openly accounted for to obtain the effect difference in the dependent variable. 2. Other variables that might influence are controlled to remain constant. In experimental research, there are controls that deliberately done by research to the variable or change that exists. Control is a research effort to move the influence of other variables on bound variables that may affect the subject. The design of quasi-experimental design or quasi-experimental design. This quasi-experimental design has a practical agreement between the third experiment and the human attitude. Toward the language, we want to examine some design of quasi-experiments, namely A. The design by subject installation through the final test and control group. B. The randomized post-test only control group design using matched subject. C. The three treatment counter blends using matched subject design. D. A basic time series design. E. Factorial. 3. Effect or influence of manipulation of independent variable and dependent variable observed directly by researcher. In an experimental study of all class, a random sample of students should be sampled randomly to determine the student in the control group. The idea of a conversation is very important because it can allow research to know the comparison of the two main groups to be compared. If the experimental and control group have similarities, then you will have confidence in the outcome of the experimental treatment. There is a difference between the two groups because of the provision of instruction or treatment. Steps of the experimental research activities. 1. Conducting an inductive study that is closely related to the problem to be solved. 2. Identify and define the problem. 3. Conduct literature studies from the several relevant scores, formulate research hypotheses, determine variable and formulate operational definition and definition of terms. 4. Create a research plan that includes activities. A. Identify outside variables that are not needed, but allow for the contamination of the experimental process. B. Determine how to control. C. Choose the right research plan. D. Determine the population, selecting representative samples and selecting a number of research subjects. E. Divide the subject in the control group as well as the experimental group. F. Create instrument, validate instrument, and conduct preliminary study to obtain instrument that meet the requirement to retrieve the necessary data. G. Identify data collection procedure and determine hypothesis. 5. Implement experiments. 6. Collecting crude data from the experimental process. 7. Organize and describe data in accordance with predetermined variables. 8. Analyze data and perform significance tests with relevant statistical technique to determine the significant stage of its content. 9. Interpret results, formulation of conclusion, discussion, and reporting. In Sukardi 2003. Experimental research design. The designs to be applied in experimental research include pre-experimental, pure experiments, and quasi-experiments. Pre-experimental design. The simple pre-experimental design is useful for obtaining preliminary information on research questions. There are three things commonly used in pre-experimental design. A. Single shot case study. B. Initial test, one group, pre-test, post-test. C. Statistic group comparison design. Pure experiment design. The design of this pure experiment has three characteristics. A. The existence of a control group. B. Students are drawn in random and marked for each group. C. A preliminary test is given to know the difference between groups. Two experimental designs are outlined as follows. A. The randomized post-test only control group design. B. The randomized pre-test post-test control group design. C. The randomized Solomon for group design. D. Randomized design with subject setting through final test and control group. E. The randomized pre-test post-test control group design.